we're safe to get going. And cognizance of being timely and getting you up before, I don't know, the rain comes. My name is Jane Bartho, and I'm the president of the Northfield Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. And believe it or not, you are my first candidate forum. So I am excited to be here and excited to be able to give a platform for the candidates to come and introduce themselves and their views and for you to get to know them better. Our moderator for tonight is the Chamber Chair, Laura Statler. Laura is the Executive Director at Arcadia Charter School. I think I might just let you take it from here. She's got the rules, she's got the questions, she's got the microphone. Thanks for coming.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Northfield Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. We're looking forward to hearing tonight from those interested in serving as mayor or councilor for the city of Northfield. And we are actually going to we'll ask a couple of questions that are specific to the mayoral role first, and then most of the questions will be asked of the whole group. Councilors and mayoral candidates will all respond to the same questions. We collected questions from chamber and community members. We may not have every question exactly the way that you maybe phrased it, but hopefully you'll see some questions that are familiar to you, or it will address an issue that you wanted to see addressed. I am going to ask the candidates, so I think Jane said you have 90 seconds, but I'm going to encourage brevity, because if all of you were to answer all of these questions at 90 seconds, that would be over 3 hours long. So the more you can get to as quickly as possible, the more fantastic. Okay, so let's get right to it. We are actually going to begin with a 45 to 60 second introduction of yourself. And if you could just say a little bit about your interest in serving as mayor or councilor for the city of Northfield. So this question will be everybody just introducing themselves. And I think we'll just start right here. That's
great. Good evening. My name is Chad Beamer, and I am running for the City Council Ward 2 seat. And I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this evening's event. I am a townie by all accounts, a 1991 Northfield High School graduate. I served 4 years on active duty in the Marine Corps and another 6 years of duty with the Minnesota Army National Guard. I have been involved in all aspects of construction throughout the majority of my life. The last 20 years I've been a construction supervisor for 2 different national builders, and for the last 7 years I've been a construction supervisor for site development and some small commercial projects. I'm running in hopes that my experience and background will bring a little bit more common sense spending to our city council. Some of the things I'm hoping to focus on are fiscal responsibility, or fiscally responsible spending to help minimize tax burden, be someone who listens and hears what my constituents have to say, focus on the needed projects versus the wanted projects, work on economic development, both residential and commercial development, to help increase our tax base, and city government transparency with increased communication. So thank you for attending tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Emmy Farley, and I am also running for Ward 2 for City Council. I really want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, and thank all of you for taking the time to come out here tonight. I've lived in Northfield since 2015. I came here at that point to be Carlton's registrar. My husband works at St. Olaf. I have 2 kids here, and one of them goes to the middle school, one of them goes to an elementary school here in town. Actually came here to work at Carlton. I no longer work at Carlton. I work at a school in Maine, but I live here in Northfield. We made a very, very conscious decision to stay here in Northfield because, frankly, a town of this size no business being as fantastic as it is, and it is this fantastic. We do so many fantastic things here in Northfield that other towns of our size simply can't compete with, and this is why I want to be on the city council. I love this progressive town that we have. We offer so much, And I think that my skills in listening and understanding, listening to hear, in compromising, in making strategic decisions, that's what I've done my whole career. I'd like to put that into practice for Northfield. I'd love to keep Northfield as strong a player as possible, both now and long into the future.
My name is Edward Molnar, and I am the third candidate running for Ward 2 for City Council. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you, Chamber. It's great that we can have candidates speak together and meet the town folk. I grew up in cornfield country in Illinois and came to Northfield for Carleton College. I graduated in 2015, and it is a sense of community that really brought me back here. This is such a lively and vibrant town that I can't really see myself living anywhere else. I love taking part in the music and volunteering and religious life. This is a community that I want to keep going as long as possible. I am running to represent integrity. I'm a seasoned election judge and very devoted to making sure that there is valid civic participation and that we're following the law, that we're teaching people how to be involved. This is necessary to making our community work and thrive going into the future. I also want to represent accountability. It is the reason that I am in this. People have personally asked me to. Many of my friends and neighbors, some here tonight, are the people who have asked me to run because they know I take my job seriously. My job in Northfield is quality assurance at Aurora Pharmaceutical, where I manage records and projects to make sure that when we say we produce the best medicine, it is reliably the best quality possible. This has a lot to do with legal compliance and answering to customers and auditors exactly what we're doing. That is the accountability that our city council needs to be able to provide to all of you. We need to be able to answer what we are doing and making sure that we are doing it well for a positive long-term future.
Good evening. I'm David DeLon. If you've been in town for a while, you know that I've been on the council, off the council, on the council. And every time I'm off the council, it gives me an opportunity to connect with people that aren't trying to influence me in some way, to vote for this or not vote for that. And I like to recharge my batteries. And in talking to citizens, it was clear that a lot of the people were tired and unhappy with the current council and the constant increases in property taxes, along with what many consider unneeded special projects, and we're looking for a change in directions. Brad and I, the other at-large candidate, have been friends since high school. We went to this very high school, and Minnie said to me, Brad is a nice guy and all, but we need someone who has a little more critical of the path that the city is being led down. I have a proven track record of questioning whether a project is desired as opposed to needed and necessary. I also have a proven track record of voting against ever-increasing yearly general fund tax levies. My time away from the council has allowed me a fresh perspective and the opportunity to reconnect with people. Everybody expects prudent increases, but they think things are getting out of hand. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Gebler. I am probably the newest to Northfield here, I believe. I've only been in town about 10 years, but it has been a fantastic 10 years here in town. I have had the opportunity to get to know many wonderful people and work with the community, get to know a lot of the folks here. And I am running because one of the more common things that I hear is that we want to continue to be a progressive, welcoming, inviting town, the same town that invited me a decade ago into coming here, but that it is quickly becoming too costly to be able to welcome new people, and that there's no place for the new people to come on in. I think that this is a place where my expertise as a project manager, as a business manager, and as a father of 5 that can run a household, balancing a budget is something that I have routinely seen and had to call into question. The necessity of projects, the necessity of certain wants versus needs is something that does need to be called into question, because we do have many needs, but there are also many wants that we can prioritize over. So I think that being able to have that clarity, being able to bring that history of balancing a budget and being able to have that history of spending where spending is needed and saving where saving is needed is something that I could certainly bring to the city.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Dahl. I'm running for mayor. I want to thank the chamber also, as my other people up here have done, for hosting this event. I'd also like to thank the high school for making this space available. I was born and raised in Northfield, and I raised my 4 children here. I've been a member of the business community here and have served the community on the school board for 17 years. This is what I believe we need to change. And as a leader of the city council, this is what I would do. We need to curb the appetite for spending in Northfield, lower the tax rates, listen and respect citizens of Northfield because they pay all our bills. It is not sustainable to do all the large projects that the city council is considering. Leave Bridge Square alone. It's lovely, it's historic. I believe we have a parking problem. It's a wonderful problem to have, and I'll tell you why. Look at other towns around Northfield. They don't have any parking problems because you can park anywhere on their main streets, any time of the day, because they don't have vibrant downtowns. They would love to have our parking problem. Too many of the storefronts in those towns are closed. We certainly can do better, I believe, with the parking spaces that we have. Another item, I think, is create affordable housing options in rental and in ownership. I have worked in this arena for many years. It's doable. Make our development office welcoming to new business and housing developers. I will mention this to you again later because it's important. If you don't vote, no one hears you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erica Zweifel, and I'm running for mayor. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the chamber for hosting us and the high school for providing the space. I'm running for mayor because I love serving the community as an elected official. I served the community for 12 years on the city council, and I'm looking to bring that experience, that knowledge, and that leadership to the mayoral role of the city of Northfield. I love serving at the local level. I love serving, talking person to person, neighbor to neighbor, seeing people around town. And like David, I've been recharging my battery for 4 years, been hearing and listening, providing some of my own input on some of the recent projects, and what I would like to focus on in my tenure as mayor, if elected, would be bring my experience to address fiscal responsibility, economic development, and increased civic engagement. Now, our time tonight is brief, and there are a lot of us up here, and I'm also known on my time on the council for my brevity. So I will leave you with, I have some literature at the back. I have a website that's really easy to remember, ericafordmayor.org. Please get in touch with me. I'm happy to talk to anyone about city issues, really about anything. I love to tell stories. So please get in touch, and thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm thankful that it's not raining out there tonight yet. I don't know if any of you are too, but it was nice to be able to walk into the auditorium without rain. It's great to be here. My name is Rhonda Parnell. Is it working? Is it working? Okay. My name is Rhonda Parnell. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been in the city of Northfield for 35 years. I first came to Northfield to attend St. Olaf College. I graduated from St. Olaf with a degree in social work. I've been serving on the city council for 16 years, 8 of the past years as mayor. my first 8 years on the city council, I also served as on the League of Minnesota Cities Board, where I also served as president of that organization. I also served concurrently on the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, which insures governmental bodies all across the state of Minnesota for 7 years. And that experience has been the foundation and basis for what I have brought to the mayoral role for the city of Northfield. Strategic planning, civility, working in strong collaboration with all of my council colleagues. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and I look forward to hearing the perspectives of my other mayoral candidates here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tim Babini, and I am running for mayor as well. I have lived here since 2005 when I was coerced by my real estate agent to say, build a house, it'll be fun. And it was not, but we were glad to build in Northfield, that's for sure. I'm running on the basis, let me tell you my experience first, I'm sorry. I've been here, like I said, 2005. I spent 26 years in the United States Air Force International Guard. I spent 3 tours in Iraq. And at the end of my career, for about the last 4 years, I was in command of 70 men and women under my command to make sure that they did their jobs. We completed our mission, and we got everybody home safe. I'm running because I didn't have to recharge my batteries, but I think they short-circuited, and I just got frustrated one day and said to my wife, I've had it, I'm going to run for mayor. My taxes personally have doubled since I've been here, and they're not going to a lot of places that I really care about. I understand that we need safe paths for our bicyclists and things like that, but we don't need to spend millions of dollars to put a path in the middle of the street. I just think it's unnecessary. I'm not against bicyclists. I'm not against anything like that. I just think that we need to refocus on what we're doing in our city. We have to do more with less, and just stop the free fall, just the spree of spending that's going on. We can't sustain that. I'm a senior citizen because I'm 66 today. It's my birthday and I'm here, so thank you. No applause because I'm really old. But I'm going to have to live on a fixed income like many of you. That's coming up the end of next year. I told my wife I'm going to retire. So I want to get a grasp on things so I can also afford to live here. And I want to thank the Chamber for inviting me here. This is really a great occasion. Thank you.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. We're going to start with the mayor-specific questions. There are 2 questions here for the 5 candidates that we have with us. So Northfield is a home rule charter city with a mayor-council form of government. The city council is comprised of 7 elected officials, including the mayor, who legislate policy and govern the issues related to the city of Northfield, while the city administrator and staff provide all the administrative functions of the city. Although the mayor has an equal vote with the other members of the council, they do hold additional duties, including the presiding officer of the council, the chief spokesperson for the council, recognized as the official head of the city for all ceremonial functions, responsible for some specific executive functions, such as studying city operations and providing leadership in the development of policy, recognized as the official head of the city for purposes related to emergencies. So the first question is, how would you provide leadership as mayor to gain support and consensus on an updated strategic plan for the city and doing work on regular policy reviews on other issues? And we can start with Adam.
Thank you. Yes, and to that point, you mentioned that the leadership largely boils down to ceremonial functions as well as ensuring that we have a good representation to the community. I think that is where we have been lacking significantly in most recent years. The information being put out to the community is very rose-tinted. The costs that are presented to the citizenry, it is not representative of all of the hidden costs. It does not include all of the risks that are run with the policies that we're voting on, and it does not include a good deal of information being sent out. Most recently with the ice arena, there was no disclosure of the insecurity with the additional funding beyond the taxpayers' money that was being requested of all of us in that vote. I think that by being able to be very transparent in disclosing where the strengths and weaknesses on opportunities and threats that the city faces, where we might be able to pursue an opportunity that is available to us, but also the threats that come along with financial downfalls and overruns of project expenses that might be possible with the program, that we need to be better informed as a citizenry, and as such we need to have a better way of not just seeing the ifs and ands of if everything goes to plan, but being able to showcase to all of us that I would be able to voice to all of you the best possible scenario and the worst possible scenario, and that we can move forward with high hopes, but a backup plan in place.
I want to provide leadership that shows Northfielders, City Hall is open. It's open to everyone, and I want to get rid of the adversarial feelings that now exist. I want to create a budget that we can live with, plans that are affordable and amenable to all. I would like to recreate a financial advisory committee. This group would meet quarterly. We used to have that set up before. They advise the mayor and the council after they scrutinize the budget, spending, and project feasibility. The group would be made up of volunteer citizens with financial expertise and business acumen. Another set of eyes on city spending would be great. Leadership, I will provide, encourage all council members to raise their hand and ask questions. I currently don't see that happen. I would encourage all council members to have ward meetings 2 times a year. Then bring all of that information back and report it publicly to the rest of the council members. All of the wards in the city are part of the city, and I think those voices should be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great question, and I'm excited to answer. Taking maybe a different tact, talking more about my personal leadership style. I prefer a collaborative leadership style. It's often described as leading alongside, or sometimes even leading from behind and empowering others to lead. I've worked a lot on my collaborative leadership style over the years and honed it. I would say that when I served on the city council, one of my super skills was listening for consensus and opportunities to bring people together. And I would continue to do that in the mayoral role. Specifically to the strategic plan, I agree with some of the comments made here tonight about costs. That strategic plan needs to be linked to costs. We need to know, as we're prioritizing projects, the actual costs of those projects to us, what maybe we can't do because we chose to do one thing, and there isn't the capacity to do another. And capacity also isn't just financial. Capacity is staff capacity, and it's citizen input capacity. How much can the citizenry comment on and really have true engagement? I prioritize citizen engagement, have it earlier in the process, and I think I'm running out of time, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
You turned the mic off. So we got it back on. Yeah, goodness. Okay, so governing in Northfield is really a team effort. Our charter is set up in that fashion. I'm really a firm believer in bringing people together to find common ground. I lead by example, and that means showing respect and honor to my colleagues, especially when we aren't aligned on policy. Maintaining strong working relationships and ensuring we have thorough, data-driven background information to inform policy decision-making is really important. Improving civility and strategic planning have given us an opportunity to work together, really to put together a multi-year roadmap to help us accomplish the needs of the community. We've never done that until I became mayor, and it's been a game changer for us. These were major improvements to the functioning of our city council and really need to continue. As mayor especially, you need to have the capacity to work alongside whatever the majority policy perspective on the council is. And with elections, it can change every 2 years. I will bring that style of leadership and will continue that style as we move forward.
My thoughts are on a lot of this is, listen to the people. They need, our city government needs to listen to us. They need to talk to us. Like Ruth Dahl said, and I'm in agreement with that, maybe wards should get meetings. Maybe the mayor should have meetings with people. Or put a video on the city website, front page, so they know what projects are going on in the city, when they're gonna happen, and how they affect all of us. There's not enough transparency right now, and I want to bring that to City Hall. We need to talk, and listen. That's probably the biggest two things we need to do. Too many things are falling on deaf ears. The outcry, and then nothing happens. Why is that happening? Why aren't we're not, I feel that we're not fully respecting the citizens when it comes to major projects, major spending. After all, it's our money. It's all of our money. I'm not gonna take your checkbook and go buy a new car. So why is this happening? We need some fiscal responsibility, and I think that's probably the biggest thing, and the big communication with everybody, and everybody has to be able to be open when they're talking. City council members, they need to be open and say, hey, it's not right, or maybe it is, but you just have to be able to talk. Thank you.
We're actually going to start with Tim, going the other direction here with the second question. In as few words as possible, what would be 3 top priorities you would personally like to see happen during your term as mayor?
3 top. One is cut taxes. People are they're leaving town, and I don't want to see that happen. Especially the senior citizens, like I said before, on a fixed income. They can't afford it anymore. I've had dozens of people, literally dozens of people tell me I can't afford the taxes anymore. My finance manager, we'll call her, Janie Newport, works at the post office, and she has handed out change of address packets to people that just cannot live here anymore because of the taxes. So that's probably my biggest priority. 2 is infrastructure. Our streets and roads are not well, I'll put it that way. We need to concentrate more on that than the pet projects, as I call them. We need to be able to drive. You want to do Bridge Square, but you have to drive down a road that isn't sufficient enough for a covered wagon. So we need to get our roads and our infrastructure in place. People aren't going to come here if they're bouncing up and down the road and having to get a realignment at the local shop because our roads are so bad. And then 3 is draw new business. We've got to find some land. We have to negotiate new land to get big business in here to alleviate the tax burden that all of us as citizens are taking on right now. Thank you.
We've been really making steady improvements in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, implementing our climate initiatives, and increasing our housing supply, and that should all continue. Policy initiatives honestly gain the greatest amount of advocacy naturally in our community. And so with that, that's why I would like to focus on the following 3 things. Strengthen our vibrant, diverse local economy by growing our existing businesses and our commercial and industrial tax base consistent with community values. Grow our tourism economy through the implementation of our Riverfront Enhancement Plan, increasing arts and cultural events and sports tournaments. And thirdly, sustainably update, maintain, and fund our park system.
My top 3 priorities, I mentioned them in my intro: fiscal responsibility, citizen engagement, economic development. So fiscal responsibility looks like linking our strategic planning to our budgeting, which I already mentioned, using the comprehensive plan, which is being redone right now, to prioritize that spending, and then regional planning with our neighboring counties and townships. We can really save a lot of money by working collectively together. Citizen engagement looks like collaborative leadership style that I bring to the table, prioritizing community voices, designing streets and public spaces to meet today's needs while planning for future challenges. Economic development looks like supporting our current businesses, attracting businesses that are complementary to our top economic sectors, housing that supports current and future Northfielders at all stages of life, and increasing the tax base. Thank you.
My three priorities are, one, keep taxes at a rate that is matched somewhat to inflation. And also consider our population growth. Cut the fat out of the budget. Open business growth areas, housing choices, and jobs growth. The third one is open and friendly communication with everyone in Northfield.
Well, I'm sure you can sense a theme with my first point, which would be to mitigate the tax increases that have been currently planned. Over the next 5 years, the city plans on raising property taxes by approximately 56% over the 5-year period, and that is unacceptable. Finding a way to mitigate those raises is going to be a top priority for me. In addition to that, I think that we need to increase our tax base, and that is done by making sure that starter homes and affordable homes for young families to be able to move to town is going to be a big priority. It is good, it is well and good and fantastic to have townhomes and to have apartment buildings being built in, but families need to have the next step where young professionals with children can have the next place to set roots into our community. We can have a transient community, we can have a young population, but we need to be able to grow and develop a stable, established population with kids that will need to use these schools. Which brings me to my third point. I would really value making sure that the necessary repairs to our high school are completed. We have tried again and again to have a new building built, but in order to do so, we need so much more funds that it does not pass the referendum. If we can move to have the amount of monies allocated for completing the repairs so our students have a facility that is in good functioning order, that realistic amount is, raising that realistic amount without unduly raising our taxes is another priority of mine.
Thank you. The City of Northfield is in the process of updating its comprehensive plan. So the next set of questions will be for everybody, councilors and mayoral candidates. The comprehensive plan is a guidebook for the city looking 20 years into the future. It's a document that outlines long-range plans for managing the growth of the community and covers areas like housing, economic development, parks and recreation, and transportation. The process starts by defining a shared vision with the community, then developing steps toward achieving that vision. So, what is your vision for the future of Northfield, and how will you use the updated city comprehensive plan to inform your policy work as you govern on the council? And we'll just start down on this end and go down the line.
Thank you. My future vision would be affordable housing with affordable real estate taxes, and to expand on our industrial tax base. It is nearly impossible to have the latter without the first. The comprehensive plan is a guide that is not written in stone, and it may be modified depending on conditions and situations while remaining practical to taxpayers.
My vision for Northfield is to keep improving and progressing in smart, data-proven ways that are consistent with who we are and who we can become. The comprehensive plan provides a guidebook sourced from both residents and experts, which is exactly what we need, and provides a lot of context for how we can preserve our strong economic position as a community and our identity as a livable community while we grow into the future. This would be done by prioritizing both affordable housing and diversifying our tax base.
The last time Northfield had a clear consensus plan was to raise quality of life and attract people to come and live here. It worked magnificently well. We had a huge influx of people of retirement age who were coming to enjoy living in this community. Now, however, the City Council is trying to tax out, to price out those retirees. A new plan is going to be one that makes it possible to afford living in Northfield. We want to attract people, but we need to be able to keep people. In particular, the people we're going to need are workers and families. We need to make it possible for people who are lower income individuals, still working on building into the life that they want to lead, and incorporating them into Northfield's economy. We need to be encouraging more space, more housing, and therefore being able to provide the workers to encourage more business.
The comprehensive plan, every 20 years, things can change a lot in 20 years. And it's a shared vision. But you people are all involved. That's why you're showing up here tonight. But how many of you have also commented on the comprehensive plan and the changes that are happening? So the people that are in charge of the comprehensive plan, we need to trust them to take into account this apatheticness, and the few people that do comment, I hope they make it flexible and take into account, even if someone, what did Nixon call it, the silent majority? But yeah, it needs to be flexible because things can change over 20 years. And the one we started out with 20 years ago is not what we need now. Thank you.
A comprehensive plan is, in its essence, a way of prioritizing, to place what we feel needs to be done most importantly, and what needs to be placed higher above other projects that might be nice if we can get to them. I think that vision has largely been lost. We have failed to prioritize the necessities, and we have instead moved forward on some smaller projects that, while nice, have largely eaten up the budget from things that need to be done. A comprehensive plan cannot encompass everything that can be seen over the next 20 years, and it does need to have that flexibility that we seem to all be noting of. To that end, I think that it is necessity for us to start the big project first, to list that what needs to be done and the time frame we're going to get it done, and the plan having further down things that we can get done if we have time and budget and everything else that will come afterwards. I hate to be reductive here, but it's like I always tell my kids, you can't have dessert until you finish your vegetables. I think we need to make sure that we collectively take care of the things that are most important before we take care of the things that would just be nice.
I think the current plan started in 1965 in Minnesota. That's when cities were asked to put together comprehensive plans. We've changed a lot in 60 years. A comprehensive plan, I believe, is a roadmap for the future of the city. It has to be fluid, it has to be flexible, and it can be affected by many outside events such as COVID. Other happenings beyond the control of the city affect how that comprehensive plan looks. It's a good way to lay out all areas important to the city, document it, put it down on paper, keeping to what we can afford to do. We should not be overspending. It can be used as a benchmark tool, I believe, to look forward and also to look back at what we've accomplished.
I believe our vision for Northfield includes being a welcoming community, an affordable community, providing a variety of housing and business opportunities. We clearly value green space and places to gather together. It's a shared vision for Northfield developed by the community, for the community. I did bring my copy of the comprehensive plan with me tonight, just so you can see how dog-eared and marked up and tagged with all of these references It's a living, breathing document that I used constantly when I was on the council. I used the references, I used the maps. I sometimes drew on the energy that I remember when we developed this plan, with 250 of us, went to the Armory together and we developed this plan as a community. I held that energy and remembered that energy while I was on the council. So an updated plan will send a clear message to future developers and businesses. So as we think about increasing that tax base, that's part of what should be baked into that plan. And then after the plan is developed, we're not done yet. After the plan is developed, we need to update zoning codes, capital improvement plans, and a new strategic plan. Ideally, our new strategic plan would be drawn from these comprehensive plan goals. Thank you.
Nicely done. I love that comp plan. That was one of the first questions that I was asked. We were all asked that when we first ran, well, okay, at least Erica's wife and myself. When we first ran for the council, that was one of the key documents that we were asked. Did you read the comp plan? Did you read the city charter? It is absolutely really important to know and understand the different policy documents that we have formally adopted as a city, as a council. A lot of our plans go through really robust engagement, and that feedback and input then is put into the plans, and then we're responsible to carry that out. Northfield is really one of the best small towns in the country. We're home to 2 world-class colleges. We have a historic riverfront downtown, which currently is flooded. Our vibrant culture is here. It's great. We have celebrated arts and strong economy, a great public school system, and an excellent quality of life, and I want to keep it that way. Great cities don't just happen. They take year over year over year continued investment to keep things up to date. And the flooding in downtown Northfield is a key part of that. That takes significant resources and collaboration at the state and federal level to ensure that our businesses can remain vibrant and part of our local economy down there. The comp plan is our highest level visioning document for the city. Everything that we do should align with that 20-year visioning document.
Looking into the future 20 years, it's nice to have a plan, but it's almost kind of like having a good dream. You can look at it and go, well, this looks really great, but in 5 years, all that can change. 10 years, all that can change. It's going to change. It won't change daily, but every few years, I think it's really going to change. You're going to have to pull back and rearrange everything. Thing is, in a 20-year plan, you don't have much for housing or anything like that if you don't get industry in here first. I think we have to start with economic development, getting big business in here to help with the tax base and everything like that, so that will draw folks in. And jobs draw people. People will drive here and come live here. I drive to Bloomington every day, and I live in Northfield because that's where my job is. A business is there that I do, and I've done it for 30 years, and I drive there. I see a lot of people leave Northfield every day to commute to the cities or maybe to Owatonna down south and stuff like that. If we get industry here, people will come and move here so they don't have to drive. My wife is fortunate enough to work at McLean. She has to drive like 4 minutes to work. Everybody dreams of that. To get industry here and have residents, young families that will pick up these jobs and do this work. That's what we need. And then our comprehensive plan, a lot of the pieces will fall into place just by that start. Thank you.
Thank you. The City of Northfield's strategic plan is scheduled for a new update in 2025. The City Council, as elected representatives, will ultimately define a strategic direction for the next 2 to 4 years and should allocate resources to these priorities. Yet, by all measures, the city tax rate is high compared to similar cities, which places financial pressures on the businesses and residents to offer the public services needed or desired. What would you support the City Council and Economic Development Authority to continue to do or do more of to encourage a strong environment to grow existing business and attract new businesses to have a thriving local economy and to reduce the tax burden for everyone? We'll start on this side.
Thank you. I would support any and all efforts in attracting new commercial and industrial development. Part of this need is to include land and infrastructure that is shovel-ready, along with any affordable housing for those who will work in these businesses. We also need to keep a simplified permitting process as not to dissuade businesses from wanting to come to our town. Thank you.
Studies that are cited in the strategic plan show that redeveloping existing buildings for commercial use can be a better use of resources than building outside of developed areas. And so we want to make sure that we're exploring as many of those opportunities here in town as possible. But businesses need people to work there. So this is going right hand in hand with the housing needs that we have and making sure that we can be a destination for people who are looking for good jobs in a great town. And that means being mindful of affordable housing needs that we have, making sure that people who come to work in Northfield can live here, making sure that all of the wards of the city are resourced equitably, and looking into transportation and network infrastructure to make sure that it reaches everyone, no matter what part of the city they live in.
Taxes are the problem. Property taxes alone are an exceptional feature of Northfield. Northfield currently, according to the Minnesota Department of Revenues, sits over the 95th percentile of all 2,800 municipalities and townships in the state of Minnesota. If all of the budget items from the referendum to the ice rink to the other additional increases in taxes that the City Council has put forward this year, if all of those go through, we are looking at a 20% increase in property taxes in 1 year that is going to jump us into the 98th percentile for highest taxes in Minnesota. This is what is crushing people. This is what is driving homeowners out of their homes. This is what is stopping businesses from getting started or new development from being developed here in Northfield. We need to cut taxes, and therefore taxes are also the solution. The greatest power of the City Council is the budget. We are not a major legislative body. We're not going to be changing all that much in way of ordinance and law. We can cut wasteful spending. We can cut all of the needless and unimportant things that City Hall staff are doing in order to be able to make sure that taxes are going to public needs. When we cut taxes, we can make it possible to live in Northfield again.
A business retention plan is very important. It's easier to keep a business than to try to attract a new one. So it's important to incubate and encourage. But also, have you ever wondered why when you go down to Faribault, they got Metcon putting up buildings, all kinds of commercial things going on in the industrial park. But there's been a hesitancy. We have that big parcel to the west of the hospital. And why wouldn't you want a business out there if you were a business? When you go through the intersection of Highway 3 and 19 by the firehouse, traffic is difficult. You throw in a train, now you've got real problems. If you're a business, clear access on 19 over to 35, why wouldn't you do that? Thank you.
I really wish I could claim to be the author of this phrase that I found a very poignant bit of graffiti up in the cities a couple years ago. A budget is a political statement. It tells everyone what we prioritize with what we choose to fund. If our taxes are going to funding certain projects, if our taxes are going to beautification or to improving certain buildings or to replacing certain buildings or to acquiring other buildings that may be sitting vacant, all of those show where our priorities are. Businesses see these priorities as well. They're going to see us raising the taxes on our population, raising the taxes on the existing corporations here in order to prioritize putting bike lane bump outs in order to prioritize rebuilding a park that is in perfectly functioning order. And I think that that is going to be one of the greatest deterrents to having new businesses come in. by showcasing that we can instead prioritize having a better school system. We can prioritize making sure that our housing is stable, and for established families to come here, that will showcase to these businesses that we want families, we want people to be employees of theirs that are planning on living here for the next 10, 20, 50 years, that they have set down roots, and that we are a well-developed community that is growing at a stable pace, and we are investing in our people rather than investing in things. I think that is going to be the greatest attraction to a business.
In all the businesses that I've been involved with, strategic planning is looking out 3 to 5 years. Beyond that, it's not terribly useful. One of the high priorities I have for Northfield concerns, I have heard from many taxpayers, our property taxes are too high. You've heard that over and over and over again tonight. Keeping the budget within reason, not overspending, not over-planning big projects is a paramount statement. We need to attract business to create jobs, find better ways to attract housing developers. We need to make our planning office give signals out that we want them here in Northfield. Our population rate has gone up about 3% last year, yet we raised our taxes 10%. That makes no sense. Let's look at what work needs to be done and set aside the desired list of projects for the near future. Northfield cannot do so many of these large projects all at one time. This is an interesting figure, and it's according to the state auditor. 42% of the households in Northfield make less than $60,000 a year. We need common sense spending to work with our strategic planning, and I fully support new development wherever we can make it happen.
Thank you. I would say this. I would say we don't need a consultant to tell us what we do best. We excel at healthcare, education, and manufacturing, and we are home to multiple nonprofits. I would lean into that local knowledge, supporting those local businesses. What are their plans for development? What are their visions for a business in Northfield? And I would recruit businesses that are complementary to the business sectors that we excel in, so that we can amplify that with our businesses. I'd also like to say a little bit about taxes and tax base, and it matters where you build and what you have to provide to build. That's why infill is so important and so helpful to our tax base. If the infrastructure is there and you're adding a business to that, then it takes less time for the taxes to actually add to the tax base. If you have to do new growth, then it takes more time to pay off those taxes, the taxes related to the infrastructure that you need to put in, and so it can take decades to actually add to the tax base. So just ask that we think about, that we review the projects that come to the council, and if we have the option to do infill, I would choose infill over new growth, and as we add new growth, again, think about the water tower we might need, think about sewer capacity. There are multiple things to think of as we expand out in the Northwest Territory. Thank you.
All right. We absolutely do need to support and grow our existing businesses. Expanding the tax base through infill and redevelopment first, absolutely, because it utilizes existing infrastructure that's already in the ground. Absolutely a priority. And then secondly, at the edges of the community in a dense, contiguous manner that strengthens our small town sense of place and high quality of life. A lot of our businesses they need greater amount of new businesses or existing ones. They need a larger amount of acreage that we don't have currently within the city of Northfield unless you locate out along or adjacent to our Northfield Hospital. You have to make that an opportunity for folks and look at it in a financially prudent manner. Tourism expansion, increase the number of arts and culture events. and coordinate and increase sports tournaments. They bring people to town. And lastly, activate our river, making it possible for people to kayak and canoe our wild and scenic river. It's going to be better for the ecology of our river. And then strengthen the economic vitality of our downtown by expanding the river walk and creatively developing the backsides of buildings that front the river, turning them into attractive places where people want to be.
I don't know if many of you remember this, I'm going to go off the rails a little bit. I used to hear always on the radio, the city of Sioux City, South Dakota, always advertising, come build in our city, come build in our city. We've got plenty of room, we've got plenty of, infrastructure, whatever. We don't have that here. That's what we need. We can't advertise to come to Northfield and build your business here because we have no place to put you. We have to find some land, and we have to negotiate it fairly and reasonably with wherever we're going to get it from, so we can get these businesses here, and then we can advertise come to Northfield. Get big business in here, industries, commercial, so we can reduce our tax base on our residents, and make them a little bit happier and be able to make people stay here. I believe that'll just fall into place with everything else, with the housing, like we said, and people coming to work here. As far as building housing, we need to find affordable housing, but to me, $400,000 for a house is not affordable, especially if you only have one person in the family working and it's the stay-at-home mom with a couple of kids. These people can't afford stuff like that, so we need to be more affordable than that. And by doing that is by reducing their tax burden on that house and trying to find some ways to make this housing more affordable for people. Our strategy is to do this and do that, but we have to start with the basics. We have to start by getting the land and getting businesses here. And like I said, everything else will fall into place. And then we can get on the radio and say, come to Northfield. That's just, it'll work. I really believe that'll work. Thank you.
Right. I know you did have the questions ahead of time. I am going to move ahead because many of you answered the next question in your previous response. So, the Chamber of Commerce is actively partnering with the City Economic Development Authority to conduct a business retention and expansion program through the University of Minnesota Extension Program that kicked off earlier today. The program will include a comprehensive survey of businesses to identify opportunities, challenges, and threats to our business community. The intent is to take information received to establish strategies to retain and grow existing businesses. Related to this effort, a two-part question. What have you heard from the business community that is needed for their success? And how would you approach using the data that will be collected to establish new priorities for the city to support the business community perspective?
Thank you. The common theme that I've heard is that the taxes are too high. That along with the increased cost of goods and services, labor, and everything else, it's getting too hard to run their business. We need to focus on keeping our own project costs down and keep the tax increases at a minimum to allow businesses in town to succeed. They are what will help keep our local economy vibrant and growing. Thank you.
One of the things I've heard is that staffing is always an issue at businesses across a variety of sectors. For some, it can be difficult to convince people to move to a semi-rural, so-called flyover country. And for others, it's a challenge of finding housing. In truth, these data are consistent with what has come up already in the comprehensive plan studies. We have a strong economic position, but there is room for growth and improvement. And these must be done comprehensively, as has been mentioned previously, not just piece by piece. Everything has to be done in concert with each other, looking at the budget in a whole and making sure we're making wise decisions.
The number one need I hear from businesses is the same number one need all of us see every time we go into town. There is a help wanted sign in every window. Businesses are looking for workers. They're having a hard time finding the people to make it possible to develop, expand, and grow business. We need a workforce. The second is an issue that I think the question actually managed to introduce. The second need I hear from businesses is less red tape. No offense to the University of Minnesota, but a SWOT analysis is a very, very simplistic kind of analysis that's going to tell people what they already know. Spending time filling out more forms, more reports, and more busy work is going to make it harder for business owners, especially small business owners, to run their business and do what they're trying to accomplish. We need to be able to take off some of the red tape so that they can do business, and that is how we grow business.
It's nice to know what works someplace else. And a lot of that is what data is. This worked here, this worked here. But Northfield is unique in its expectations and its policies. We need to talk to businesses here in Northfield that have had to negotiate the uniqueness that is us. Business owners, bankers, commercial real estate people. Maybe it's time we started with a finder's fee, or find someone that's a real go-getter, or loosen up a little bit. Cabela's, when they wanted to come to Owatonna, they were far outside the city limits. But Owatonna took a chance, extended it out, and now you know what's down there producing tax revenue. So go west, young man, go west.
I've already discussed my opinions on long-term affordable housing for establishing families with roots here, and my viewpoints on the necessity of mitigating taxes on both corporations and on the population. When it comes to retaining businesses and getting the information from businesses from what they need, I think the simplest answer is to ask with the intent of listening. A few months ago, I was a part of a meeting discussing the Bridge Square development with a lot of the other business owners around Bridge Square. Over the course of several hours, there was discussions of how many parking spaces were being taken out, how this would impact the businesses, when the construction would happen, and how the business owners, concern after concern, person after person, all came up with issues and suggestions of how we could mitigate these problems, how we could find possible solutions, voicing problems with saying, your answer of moving the parking spaces away from my business aren't going to work for me. Several hours went by, and finally the answer from the city is, well, this is actually already planned. We're just letting you know. I think if you're going to ask the business owners to tell us, to give us information of what they need, you start by being able to listen. You start by being able to say, this is not telling you what is going to happen. This is actually the place where you get to give us input. That we have not signed on the dotted line already.
I agree. Okay, so that's fine. These folks, these entities are going to gather this information, make it available. I think it's worth analyzing and use it to best serve Northfield in maintaining and growing our town. We're talking about the same issues. You've heard housing, jobs, growth, development. I mean, you've heard all those same things, and I agree with that. So let's use that information if it's valuable to us, but let's also be practical about what we're doing.
Thank you. So what I've heard from the business community, also the need for workers, and I think ultimately maybe that need for workers locally is that we don't have the housing to house them. So housing needed for workers. I've also heard that we need to decrease the rate of our property tax increases and improve customer service at City Hall. I hear people saying that it's not the best customer service that they're getting there. Red tape has been mentioned, that sort of thing. So what would I do with that information? I served on the city's Housing and Redevelopment Authority for many years, and I will continue to work on multiple housing solutions. It's going to take more than one. It's going to take all of the ones that we have to work on housing solutions. Also think creatively about those infill parcels. I mentioned this as part of the increasing the tax base, is that I think the city could invest in some projects, infill projects that will increase the tax base. So I know we have a question about 5th and Water Street coming up later, but I love that project because it's downtown, it's infill. You can take a parking lot and you can add on top, keep the parking lot, yes, and add on top of it, add office space, add housing. You can tackle multiple issues with this one project, and the things that you put there would increase the tax base. So, and then I would improve customer service at City Hall. How can we help you when people walk through the door? That's the question. How can we help you?
All right, I'm really excited about our business retention and expansion program. It was noted in our 2006 EDA TIP plan and has yet to be implemented. So part of why that happens is you have constant turnover in community development, in City Hall, in elected representation. So many great ideas, and everybody wants their idea to move forward. 150 of them going in all different directions, unifying us, moving us forward, getting the work of the city accomplished is really important. I really am behind the business and retention and expansion program because it will give us a better understanding of what all of our businesses are needing. Some of them do want to expand here in Northfield and are actively looking for space to expand into. Loon Liquors, that is out along Armstrong Road, has been recruited to expand and grow in other cities. They want to be in Northfield. They are very aware of the tax base and the increases or the taxes that they'll need to pay as they move into the Northfield News Building. We have businesses that want to grow here, and they're committed to being here. We know that businesses are looking for places to expand in the downtown specifically. We do need workforce housing. We have about 750 homes and residential apartment units that have either been built or they're in the pipeline to be built. That's a lot, and that's since 2020. Transit is an issue, making it easier for our shared workforce to get between our different cities in the region, Lakeville, Faribault, Lonsdale, Cannon Falls. We need to connect our workforce, as well as ensure that they've got adequate housing here, or if they want to live in another community and make their way here. There's lots of different ways that you can go about this, but supporting your businesses and connecting them with the necessary resources, absolutely essential.
I have talked to a few businesses in the city. Some of the people I knew, some people I had just met. Probably the biggest thing, like everybody else, a lot of people on the board here, I guess I'll call it, is the taxes that they have to pay, and they're just so high. Some of them have licensing fees that they have to pay to sell certain goods and wares, and they talk about those as being very high. I think those go hand in hand with the help wanted signs because they can't afford to give them a decent wage for these people that are looking for work because of their cost of goods and their taxes. So we've got to be able to be a little more flexible and somehow give them some concession so they can get workers and pay them a decent wage and retain them with a decent wage. Without that, they're going to keep looking and their businesses are going to start going down because they can't staff them and they can't support the community for the business, for the business that they have. They just can't keep up with it, with the demands. So what are they going to do? They either close or they shorten their hours and then they lose money. Then they're not to be able to pay their taxes. So I really think that we need to concentrate on that. Even with new businesses coming in, we need to figure out how to be a little more fair to them, and everybody that's grandfathered into town will retain them if we show them some compassion and try to give them a break and a chance to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Many of you addressed housing in your responses, and so I am going to move forward to project and issue-specific questions. I'm going to start with property taxes. Many of you have also addressed this, but I think this is of great interest to people for a little more detail, perhaps. So the city has had and is projected to continue to have property tax levies well beyond inflationary increases, as many of you noted. Much of that has been driven by capital projects such as significant street reconstructions and adding new staffing, including police and fire positions. How will you prioritize city spending to balance wants or needs with the cost of these projects that are primarily funded through property tax increases?
Thank you. We need to look at the impact of future tax increases along with weighing in the future needs of the school district. Tax increases should mirror, as Ruth stated earlier, more closely to that of the inflation rates. We must always focus on what is needed before what is wanted. Once the needed is met, we can then look at some of the wants if the money is available. We need to return to a fiscally responsibly run city. Thank you.
My day job as an IT product manager is to be the person who considers all of the wants and needs of my organization's technology spending, meets with the stakeholders, and prioritizes our projects and expenditures. It requires being exceedingly well informed about the options and the obligations at play, and then making hard decisions about what can be resourced now and what needs to be put on our roadmap for future consideration and perhaps completion. This is the same approach that I would take to moving Northfield forward responsibly for property taxes.
I already introduced how taxes are too high and how City Hall spending is driving the higher taxes. The answer here is cutting City Hall spending. If you actually look at the budget of how City Hall is spending its money, yes, there are occasionally new jobs in emergency response servicemen, and I agree that this is one of the best services that the city government can offer the people of Northfield, but it is by far not really where City Hall is trying to expand. If you look at the most recent request for more City Hall personnel, it's secretaries, it's office workers, it's people who are going to be spinning their wheels, taking in information, generating plans, designs, reports, and all of these other things that drive spending even higher. My work at Aurora Pharmaceutical includes project management, and part of my duty there is getting the job done effectively and efficiently. City Hall does not do that. I also have 3 years working part-time at City Hall, where I get to see how inefficiently City Hall operates. You've heard plenty of times here how Northfield isn't really changing, developing, or growing, and yet we have two city planners for a city that's stagnant. It doesn't make sense. There are already wasteful positions at City Hall, and the most recent city administrator's request just asks for more. We can cut this down.
For me, it all starts with setting a realistic budget and not setting it in September when the staff comes and says, we need a 12% increase, and then we can pare that down in December. You know, that's a not to exceed amount, but a budget needs to start with direction from the council in June, right now, and saying to everybody in the city, we're doing 3% this year. You need more than 3%? You best have a whole litany of things to justify any increases. So, setting a realistic budget. Thank you.
I've touched on my position for this answer in several different answers I've given tonight. Primarily, I keep going back to prioritizing. My kids can't have dessert until they finish their vegetables. Rhonda listed many, many fantastic projects that I think would be wonderful for us to see as a city completed. If we try to do all of them, it is not possible. It is not going to be possible to tackle all these projects. It's not going to be possible to tackle all these projects in any sort of a time frame. And we're going to need to prioritize what must be done, what would be nice to be done, and what we can afford to say it won't happen now. In addition to that, I do agree that the amount of spending on personnel in City Hall is wildly growing out of proportion for what the city needs. any business that you see that is growing outside of its budgetary constraints, the biggest problem is usually personnel. That if we have so many positions of people finding work to be done, or if we have so many people who are being able to administer a city that really has not grown in proportion to the amount of administrators that are growing in the city's budget for funding people at City Hall, I think what you're going to find is that there is a huge amount of our tax base that is going towards programs or personnel that could be seen as being redundant, or at least be put together in a more efficient manner. So by prioritizing which projects should be done before the others, and by streamlining the amount of personnel at City Hall, the budget should be able to be balanced much more effectively.
Okay, same old tune you're gonna hear again. Too high property taxes, we all seem to agree on that. They're rising at a rate that we can't afford. I will tell you, my taxes have gone up almost 25% over 3 years. And as announced by the City Council last week, they're looking at rates going up 15% next year and maybe 17% the following year. This has to stop. We need to curb that appetite that I talked about for spending. All of us are watching our wallets get thinner. Our costs of living are going up. You all pay more for gas, you all pay more for food, you all pay more for insurance, and those are just a few of the examples. So I have a couple of stories. I was recently talking to a county commissioner, and he wanted to relay the message to me because he wanted to get the point across. And he said he's had a couple of calls from women living in Northfield, and they were in tears over the phone. They've lived here their whole lives. They can barely understand how in the world they're going to pay for increased property taxes. To me, that's unconscionable. I will tell you another story about a downtown retailer that told me their taxes went up about 50% in 1 year's time. That's unlivable. And then one final story I'm going to tell you. When I started on the school board, I was green, I was diving into a business that I really didn't understand a lot, but I had 4 children in school, so I was deeply involved with schools. We had a superintendent who was moving on, and we had a few months of a fill-in interim superintendent, and we were $55,000 in the red on our budget. In Minnesota, you can't be in statutory bankruptcy and run a school district. We hired Charlie Kite. Charlie Kite went around to all the schools. He touched base with every single department, every single labor group, and said, we're going to cut the budget by 10%, to which he got, and he said, no, you're not hearing me. You all keep $9 of that $10, and you give me $1 back. All of a sudden, everything started to fit together. I mean, it's this kind of thinking that we have to use to make sense and get property taxes in mind while we're growing our businesses. We're growing our housing choices, because that's what we did in the school district. And you're sitting in one of the nicest auditoriums around because we brought it into line. So I think those stories are important. I think they're personal. I think they involve the school district and they involve the city, because the city and the school district are digging in the same taxpayer pocket for support, and we need to be respectful of those tax dollars. Thank you.
So we need to set a fiscally responsible budget and work within that budget. I agree we need to start the budgeting process earlier. It would help the decision-making process immensely to have the strategic plan linked to budgeting, where all of the costs are clearly outlined. The debt capacity costs, the maintenance costs once a building is built. I have seen projects go forward where the maintenance costs aren't included. It might be that we have to wait until we have a tax base increase of X amount before, to a certain level, before we take on a new project. We need regional planning to stabilize the levy through collaboration with the school district and county as we plan our capital projects. How are our neighbors supposed to plan when our tax increases are so peaked and large at the moment? So, sound like a barista. I'm making a latte with foam. Anyway, prioritization. How would I prioritize it? I would come from the comprehensive plan, that strategic plan that's linked to budgeting, and the community input. We need to move that community input earlier so it's genuine community input, not, oh, the cake is already baked, what color do you want the frosting? We need to all get involved in the baking of the cake.
Basic city services are non-negotiables. We have a better understanding now of the consequences of multiple decades of city infrastructure and facility disinvestment in our community. When I first got on the council, the goal and the culture was pass a levy at 0, 1, or 2%. Was not enough to cover the expenses or even general maintenance and upkeep of all of our facilities. When I first started in 2008, as I said, we had those really, the emphasis was passing a really low levy. We were faced with making updates to numerous facilities and infrastructure. We've been slowly working our way through those. A police station that needed to be updated, fire station. Our existing one is now raised and they're not having to pump water out of our fire station because we made that important investment. It's really important. Our library, City Hall, our wastewater treatment plant, you've got to make regular updates. Streets, we had a significant number in failing or poor condition. You can't do that. Stormwater, we need to right-size our infrastructure to accommodate significant rainfall events. They said the 2010 flood event would never happen again. We've had at least 4 now since I've been on the council. Our park system is still underfunded for more than a decade, and we have started improving those steadily, slowly. We are making progress to correct all of the disinvestment. It's taking a lot of time. We didn't get here overnight, and we won't get out of this overnight quickly either. Steady, consistent investment is really important for the long-term health and well-being of our community.
Well, everybody's pounded the tax thing right into the ground, I think we all got the message on that. The biggest thing I'm trying to figure out is just how our money is spent as well. We've heard cries and cries about this school and how it needs upgrades or even a new building. But yet, we need new windows and HVAC system like Mr. Hillman has stated. But if we need things like that, why don't we build bike paths first? Why don't we recategorize that money somehow, if we could, to at least start making some of the improvements on the school instead of just throwing a pile of money at it one time that right now we can't afford. So we're throwing money at things because we think we need them, but we're not throwing the money to the things that we know we need. This school is, the bones seem pretty strong on this school. It does need some upgrades. I'm not going to argue about that. But we could have taken some of the money in the last, say, 5 to 6 years. I'm just spitballing here. And we could have maybe started to do some improvements. Those single pane windows have probably been in here since the 70s. So why didn't we do them in the 80s or 90s? And now that it's 2024, well, now we need
Tim?
$100 million.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but from the city perspective, so since the school is a separate entity.
But that's what I'm getting at.
From the
Money
city
that we spent
perspective.
through city projects, we could
Okay.
have re-earmarked for the school, is what I'm trying to get at. But I'll leave it at that, but that's just where I want to go. We need to start thinking ahead instead of just jumping at an opportunity and saying this is a great idea. Thank you.
All right. So the next specific topic that was addressed here in the questions that we received was about the Northfield Liquor Store. So the municipal liquor store has been in operation since 1948 and has continually been profitable. Last year, for example, the municipal liquor store saw a 28% profit over expenses. That was from reporting from KYMN. Thank you to them. The purpose of municipal liquor, as set by policy of council, is to, number one, control the sale of alcohol. Number two, provide revenue to supplement traditional tax and fee revenue. Number three, provide an economic stimulus to the central business district. And number four, to provide a convenient location for residents to purchase alcohol. So the question to all of you is, ongoing discussions of a new liquor store have resurfaced public discussion of the value of the city operating a municipal liquor store. Do you feel that the city should continue to operate a municipal store? What are your thoughts on relocation and new construction of the current operation?
Thank you. In short, I would not support a new liquor store. The history is great, but with a profit margin of a little over $150,000 last year, is it really a wise investment? I don't think so. At a profit, the return on investment of a $6.4 million liquor store is just way too far out. So why not attract a potential buyer or a potential tax-paying business to come in and operate a liquor store within the city limits? It's a quicker return on investment with little to no taxpayer burden.
I love having a municipal liquor store that puts the profits right back into the community, and I'm in support of continuing the model. I think a smart relocation of the Muni and in new construction, perhaps right at 5th and Washington, could really provide an exceptional and accessible experience. Speaking from personal experience, sometimes those 3 steps to get up into the wine section prevents me personally from being able to walk up into the wine section. The Muni can operate it again from many locations, and relocating it could offer the opportunity to improve the experience while redeveloping highly desirable riverfront business areas.
The introduction to the question was nice enough to list out some of the reasons for having a municipal liquor store, including accessibility to alcohol. The city does not need to make alcohol more accessible. This is not the mission of representative city government. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I should be upfront with you. I'm a teetotaler. I've never been to the municipal liquor store. I've never been to most liquor stores. Frankly, I don't see there being any value in the city trying to invest in, yes, that substance that tends to lead to problems like depression, drunk driving, and domestic abuse. This is not a business the city wants to be in, and I'm kind of surprised there hasn't actually been a lawsuit against, well, the city sold me the stuff. If that isn't good enough, let's talk some basic figures. The city is going around spending $20 million on a nice arena, $6 million on a park, millions here, millions there, there's money for everybody. And how much money is the liquor store actually making? It's in the wrong order of magnitude. It's just not going to solve the city budget problems.
First, I guess I have to take issue with KYMN Radio because 150,000 is not the figure. And I brought receipts from page 55 of the recent 2023 audit. Operating income or profit was $70,000 on sales of $2.8 million. So if you take the $50,000 transfer out to the general fund, which a lot of you know used to be $100,000, that's $20,000. That's a whole lot of work to make a $20,000 profit. And I've, in the past, have been a supporter of the Muni because when it got introduced, they didn't want to be like Superior Street up in Duluth, where kids just went and got hammered. For years and years and years, the only place you could get hard alcohol was in one of the service organization clubs. But I am drastically starting to think that maybe we should sell it, let them put up a building, get the tax revenue, get the fee. A whole lot less work than to make $20,000. Thank you.
To jump in, just note, I actually changed a bit of this. So what KOIMN reported was the 28% profit over expenses, not the $150,000. Just to be clear.
That's what it says.
Yes, I had a different question.
That's me, Mr. Detailed. Sorry.
So, for any of you who don't know me, I ran the MGM liquor store in Dundas for about 5 years. So I know a little bit about this industry. And I can tell you that even when I was operating and managing one of the competitors, anyone who asked me this question, I always said, I love the fact that the liquor store is helping to put my kids through school. I have 5 kids in public school, and competition always helps the customer. However, the idea of building a new liquor store was pitched to us with the proposal that the new liquor store with its increased footprint would sell $7 million every year. The current liquor store sells 2.8. Northfield and Dundas combined with all 3 liquor stores sells about $7 million. This is where I mentioned rose-tinted glasses. The most current proposal that was put forward to say that the new liquor store could pay for its own expenses in being able to have this expansion and move would assume that the other 2 liquor stores would just close their doors and close up shop. Because why not? We have a new one in Northfield. I think that if we have something that is self-sustaining, can provide jobs, and they are very good jobs for the people who work there, and can still turn a bit of a profit for the city, I don't see why there is not a reason to continue to let that exist. Moreover, we already have properties on the riverfront that are sitting empty, owned by the city, with no plan of how to fill them. I don't think that emptying another building by the riverfront in the hope that someone else will come on and want it is a good proposal. When we have someone that wants the building, when there is already a new place for it to be, and when we've proven that the projected sales are a realistic number, then we can revisit the issue.
Okay, you've heard that the profit last year was less than spectacular. According to the state auditor, it was about $60,000. If they build a new $6.2 million building, they will not even be able to service the debt unless they raise the sales by 70%. Now, that'd be a miracle. They don't pay any property taxes, they don't pay any fees, they don't pay any parking fees. We should not be in that business. And a little bit of history, it was opened about 70 years ago, and it was to provide a retail service to the city residents. Now it has larger competitors, and it can't compete with the prices. Let's get out of that city-owned business and do something better with that property. Let's put it back on the tax rolls.
Thank you. One of the first committees I served on when I was on the council in 2010 was reviewing replacing the liquor store at that time. And the return on investment simply didn't pencil out. It didn't pencil out then. It doesn't pencil out now. Spending over $6 million on a new liquor store does not yield enough profits for a very, very long time. And so when something like that occurs and you look at it and you look at that space, I think about what is the best and highest use for that property. If that property could be redeveloped, it frees up some space for redevelopment, opportunity to add that building back to the tax base. And then, as others have mentioned, I like to think about the purpose of having a municipal liquor store. I appreciate that was in the question. One, control the sale. Are we really controlling the sale when there are so many competitors nearby? Two is revenue. I would say, again, that's not worth it, as others have mentioned. The stimulus to the downtown and convenience, I agree, those are important things. And I'm curious about, in the future, the state legislation has looked at allowing the sale of beer and wine and some alcohol in grocery stores. What happens to our muni liquor store when that state legislation ultimately passes? So there are a lot of things to consider here as we look at a new liquor store, and at the moment I would not be in favor of adding a new liquor store.
Councils over the years have all reaffirmed city ownership, and I agree. The liquor store location should be in a highly visible location where it can best serve customers, ADA accessible, improve efficiencies. And right now there are a lot of deficiencies in the existing building. Ideally, it would be located in a location that would spur additional development or redevelopment. As one of the goals of the city council currently is to put it in a place that will actually spur or strategically improve or invite in additional businesses to locate alongside it. So these are all conversations that are in the mix, and our EDA, Economic Development Authority, is meeting here tonight, and they're giving guidance to the city council on what to do with some of our downtown properties.
Like many others, I am also not in favor of putting up a new liquor store. Like everybody said, the profits that that thing is gonna churn out, how long is it gonna take us to recoup all that money on $6.4 million? They said there's gonna be some additional businesses and stuff in there. It's still not gonna be enough to recoup all this money. It's illusions of grandeur as far as I'm concerned. With the existing building, I would sell it, try to get somebody else, try to get a mom and pop to put their own liquor store here, then we get a tax base out of the deal too. Or rezone it, or just sell it to somebody to put something else in there that is more beneficial to the community. I personally do not go there. Yes, I enjoy a cocktail or two. But I personally do not go there because it's more expensive than it is in Dundas. And that's the main reason I don't go there, is because of the cost. And that's because it's a city-owned liquor store. Lakeville has a great liquor store there. Their city liquor store is constantly busy, but we're not Lakeville. We're Northfield. They've got 60,000 people, we've got 20. I don't feel that spending $6.4 million on this structure is gonna benefit anybody in this town. And who's gonna pay for it? It sounds like it's gonna be you and I. I mean, we'll get sale off some of that land. Is it gonna cover $6.4 million worth? I don't think so. So, yeah, I would say do away with it and let's do something else with that property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Riverfront Action Plan. Bridge Square Street reconstructions and park improvements are in the final construction document phase and pending final approvals. The council is anticipating a request for state bonding for half of the project and is suggesting to move this to a 2026 construction project at the earliest. What is your opinion related to the proposed Bridge Square Street and Park design, proposed and planned improvement project? That was a mouthful. All right.
Leave it alone.
That was the shortest answer we'll get all night.
Well, I know there's somebody down the road who'll take that.
I think postponing this makes sense. I think there are a lot of priorities, and this strikes me as something that's much more of a nice to have, or maybe something to consider. So minimally, the pause allows us to reevaluate and see if this is really something that we need to do right now.
All right, tag team with Chad. To develop the thought of leave it alone a little more, the reason I think that that is the right approach is because if you look at the plan is basically to take Bridge Square, tear it all up, and then put it back down the same way. Why are we spending money on that? There is no good outcome from investing all this money into a plan that leaves things basically the way it is. Going through the plan, however, I did find one detail, It intends to take out some parking spaces and to reduce road access to Bridge Square and 4th Street, which makes it harder to get to the post office and the museum and the businesses and even our friends at the Chamber of Commerce. It's nonsensical. Let's not.
Too elaborate, too expensive, I'd vote no.
I think that in a time and place where virtually everyone at the table here would agree taxes are too high and we're all trying to find a way to cut some of the costs, that is probably the easiest cut that can be made.
Okay, my turn. Leave it alone. It's historic, it's lovely. Tens of thousands of people come here each year to spend their time and money downtown. It makes no sense to change it. What does need replacing are those goofy brick pavers on the corners of the streets. The crosswalk area. I mean, let's take those out and put in something that is sustainable, that's durable in our weather, and we don't need to replace it every year. The dam downtown is fine currently. It may need work in the future, but we don't need to spend millions of dollars on that now. And the city council talks kind of freely about, we'll get a grant for that. We'll find the federal funding or state funding for that. Where do you think that money comes from? It comes out of your taxpayer pockets. You just gotta stop and think about that for a minute, you know? It's important. And I want the city council to listen, because they're not hearing us. Leave Bridge Square alone. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. In addition, all that, and then on top of that, I'll say that we also had a question about the Milltown Trail dam removal. And does it really make sense to redesign Bridge Square until we know if we're removing the dam and what the river will look like? It doesn't. We should think, we should continue to explore what the river will look like and what the dam removal will look like, and then possibly in the future redesign in a phased manner, scaled back manner, so that we can stabilize our levees, look at Bridge Square.
Our parks all need to be updated and maintained periodically, and this is one that has not seen updates for some time. Strategic updates will improve the overall functioning of this core park in our downtown that serves regular, large-scale events. The streets are part of this project surrounding the park and also need really important maintenance. You just have to do regular maintenance. Pursuing additional funding through the state legislature with bonding dollars or grant dollars and shifting it further out into our capital improvement plan to decrease the high levy increases that we've been looking at really makes sense, and I'm really thankful that our council agrees with that. Moving it out makes sense. Harnessing state and federal level grants and bonding dollars also makes sense. We brought in nearly $13.7 billion from all resources since 2020. Northfield has never regularly went after grants or bonding dollars. Previously, when I first got on the city council, cities do it all of the time. Competing for those dollars makes sense. You're right, they are your tax dollars, and Northfield should be competing for those dollars just like every other city is. Leaving it on the table and allowing other cities to harness those grants and bonding dollars, you're right, our tax dollars are supporting other cities. They need to support us here locally. We've got great projects to move forward.
The council may agree to the Bridge Square project, but the residents do not. And I'm included as one of those residents. Does it need to be spruced up a little bit? Yeah, maybe. I would just like to see the city spend a few $100 to get rid of the tree stumps and the 5-foot high tall grass along the boardwalk there, so you can actually see the river. That seems to never happen during the summer. If it does, I'm missing out maybe. But yeah, I can see it, and I'll segue up for Ruth on those pavers. This is not the type of climate to have that type of construction in the street. I just don't agree with that. Tear it all up, get rid of those and just put down some, good concrete and solid where you don't have water seepage and everything pushing and heaving those up and sinking them. But yeah, that is money not well spent. If we're gonna get grants, let's get grants for the school if we can, to get some construction here instead of spending it on the outside, let's spend it on the inside. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to move forward a bit to the complete streets question because it seems related to some of what came up in the last discussion. So, the City Complete Streets for All program has generated significant opinions, particularly bike lanes with protected curbs and certain planned corridors. The city has communicated their interest to make streets safe for all types of users, including pedestrians and bikers with all abilities. And I'm going to skip to the second part here. However, there are times when a broader city goal for a cohesive and connected network might be met with individual property or business owner opposition. How would you factor in individual property owners' interest within a broader community public goal if they are at odds, in some cases, related to street designs? And I know some of you had talked a bit about parking, if you wanted to include that in this idea of streets. By all means.
Thank you. When a project comes at odds with the property owners, and those owners get over 1,000 area residents to sign a petition, so to hold a petition to the city to hold further discussions on that project, I can guarantee you one thing. I will not ignore that petition or the people that signed it regardless of some legal loophole. We as a city need to use some common sense to determine how much is to be done and what is needed versus what is wanted. Taxpayers shouldn't be an open checkbook for the city. Improved walks and bike paths are okay, as long as they are financially feasible. Protected bike lanes and total street redesign is a wanted item and not a needed item. Therefore, it shouldn't be done. It is more financially feasible to paint lines on the street after the R&R is done on the walks and curb, and then the mill and overlay has been completed. Keeping project costs down to keep tax burden down should be a priority. Thank you.
I very much want to make our streets safer for residents who need all modes of transportation, because not everyone has access to a car, but everyone deserves to be able to safely and securely make their way around town. That said, constituent feedback is very real, it is very important, and it comes from an important and productive, I think, place. That said, streets are for long-term use by entire populations, and the homeowners have a huge say in it, but it is for the entire city's use, and that includes people who don't use cars as their primary mode of transportation. We hope to get decades out of our roads, and the average length of homeownership in the US is less than 10 years. So yes, current attitudes matter, and homeowners need to be listened to and heard and involved in the decisions that we make as city government. But we have to plan for the homeowners of tomorrow as well as the homeowners of today.
I like Northfield's parks. There are 35 parks. I've been to almost all of them. And it is, I think, important to maintain them. Maintaining a park is a very simple, low-cost, easy investment in the community. I want to focus my attention in this time, however, on a very different kind of issue. I'm going to pick on very particular words so that we are sure, all of us together, that we know what we're hearing on the stage here. I think Chad misspoke just a little in referring to the bike curbs as a wanted item. They are not. We can talk to people all over town who are offended by the cost, offended by the inconvenience, by the traffic changes, by the misuse, by the danger of how they alter traffic, don't work with snowplows, and are just a terrible idea every way you slice it. That is not a want. Ooh, there might have been a few squeaky wheels that convinced somehow the entire city council to go along with millions and millions of dollars of unneeded, unhelpful spending. They are French activists. We don't need to listen or say yes to everything that comes up. What we are facing this year is a choice about responsiveness in local government. You heard it on this stage right here. Ruth introduced, City Council does not listen. They are not responsive, they are not taking input, they are not listening to people's needs. And Mayor Pownell just jumped right in on the status quo is good. We're not listening, we are forcing everybody to pay up, and this is exactly what we need more of. Folks, it is not. It is time to vote the City Council that we have out.
Complete streets, bike lanes. We have 2-lane bike lanes. We have bike lane on one side of the street, bike lane on the other side of the street. We have concrete barriers. I've had numerous people ask me, what are the green crosswalks? I mean, there's been no education that's gone out with this. We work off a plan, but that's lines on a map. Who can better tell you than a person living along that street? Oh, I see bike riders almost every day. Yeah, a concrete median would be good. Who better? They use that street 365 days a year. But we've spent hundreds of thousands, I don't know if it's millions, but we can't go out to Menards and buy a $150 trail camera and see how many people actually use bike lanes. Thank you.
I'm going to be my own squeaky wheel here and come back to prioritizing. I think that by saying the necessity of putting in these bike lanes as a priority over many other projects that are truly needed by a higher percentage of the population, or better yet, an unstudied percentage of the population. We don't know how many people are using these bike lanes, and yet we say that it was more important to spend the money on putting in these bike lanes and putting in these bump outs than other projects that now are coming up against the idea that taxes are too high and they might need to be cut. I cannot understand how creating concrete barriers without comprehensive studies of the population usage of them has deemed to be a better spending of our money than other projects to make sure that housing is affordable, that the community can grow, that our tax base isn't so high, that we can really invest in our community that benefits the greater population, not just the two-wheel population. I would love if we had the income and the expendable income to make sure that bike lanes were a part of every street out there. But to say that the bike lanes are a higher priority than many of the issues we're currently facing and the tax hikes that we're currently facing is just irresponsible.
Okay, I agree. I will tell you, in my neighborhood, I have a 10-foot wide asphalt bike lane going right past my living room window. Now, it is overbuilt. I thoroughly believe in bike safety. I'm not against bike safety, but the confusion that David DeLong talked about is very evident. So many people have said, where am I supposed to drive here? What's the program here? And why is that? What are the green stripes? And what you have paint here, and then you have cement barriers, and then you have asphalt. Why did the city do that? Makes no sense. So I think I will tell you about a little bit more detail about that petition of over 1,100 people who signed it. And what the petition said is they wanted the city council to step back and reassess the bike lanes and how they were doing that and how many millions of dollars they were spending on it. Citizens in this town from 189 different streets all over Northfield signed that petition. That means at least one person on every single block said no. Now, I don't think the city heard that. I can't imagine why. I mean, there's been enough editorials, there's been enough public comment. And again, the City Hall ignored it. I have a large concern about how we're going to care for this in the winter months. Last winter, we didn't have any snow, no problem. Where is all this snow going to get piled? It's certainly going to be a huge expense if all that snow has to be hauled to a different site. We have plenty of street maintenance to be taken care of. We have potholes, we have manhole covers that bikers fall into and complain about. Now, let's fix a lot of that stuff at probably a pretty minimal cost. But things like that should take precedence. We don't need any more street corner bump outs.
Thank you. The bike lanes are over-designed for our community. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. It's known as a biking mecca, and they don't use permanent solutions like that for their complete streets. They use solutions that are flexible, that can be changed, that are understandable for all users. Need to have solutions that are understandable for people driving cars, people on bikes, and people on foot. This new one-size-fits-all system that they're using, it's too expensive, it doesn't work. I support a connected system that's understandable for all users and that is at a lower cost, that is flexible, that can be changed as the community changes. You do that with paint, quite simply. And if you decide to change where your bike route, your bike lane is, you can do it with paint. Yeah, it's a clear example of an over design, and local knowledge is critical. You all know where the water pools on your street. When my street was reconstructed, we all said, hey, the water pools between 406 and 410. They didn't listen to us. The water still pools between 406 and 410. Listen to the citizens. Recognize that public knowledge, honor the public knowledge, and use it to our benefit of everyone.
Improving our pedestrian and bike infrastructure makes it possible for people of all ages and abilities and socioeconomic statuses to move about our community safely. It hasn't been that long ago where we've had deaths in the community where young people were out and about and were hit by cars. We need to make our community safer, and paint doesn't protect someone. Those parts of our community where there are gaps in the connectivity of our sidewalks and trails should be prioritized with a complete, connected, and consistent network. I agree. We don't have that currently, and we're trying to course correct that. Small incremental improvements are preferred unless additional outside funding like grants can be utilized. We need to do a better job of communicating the broader vision before, during, and after citywide plans are adopted. I've been surprised at how many people in our community haven't heard about the Milltowns Trail. That has been 30 years in the making, and over the course of those 30 years, every single council reaffirmed and helped move it forward. I've also been surprised at how many people haven't been tracking the more recent recommended plans for improving our pedestrian and biking improvements. We can and should be doing better. Of the 156 lane miles in the city, only 7% have been identified to improve the safety of our community. Where there are gaps in the network, we will need to continue to work with property owners in order to find a way forward to make the connection.
That petition had 1,100 signatures on it when it was turned into the city council. That's 1,100 people crying out to the council, telling them to listen to us. I don't care if it had a flaw or there was a loophole, I don't care what it was, 1,100 people were telling them to listen to what we are saying to you. And we, including myself, were ignored. That is unacceptable. I have done some research with these bike lanes that we installed, and short of calling somebody in Rochester, they had the same design. They don't have that design anymore because they removed them. And I think they found out the problems that we're going to experience here in a couple winters or so. I'm totally against those, just like everybody else is. There's better ways to do this. Question, how many people have been to the airport? How many people have taken a flight? Raise your hand. You ever taken one of the moving walkways? What does it say? One side it says walk, one side it says stand, right? Why can't we build a wider path that says bikes, pedestrians? Why do we have to tear up a street and do this when we can just widen the sidewalk? Most of us, when we were kids, we rode on the sidewalk and nobody ever yelled at us because, hey, we're all on our bikes riding around, staying out of trouble. There could have been easier ways to do this, a lot cheaper ways. And if we do for future construction on some of the roads where the sidewalks need to be replaced, why don't we implement that? Make them a little wider and put half for bikes, half for pedestrians. It's logical and it'll work. Thank you.
Thank you. The next specific issue is the ice arena. I'm going to try and keep this one really short, so maybe just a yes or a no here. The City of Northfield, City of Dundas, Northfield Public Schools, and private donors have approved a financial framework and plan to construct a new ice arena and sell the existing arena. Would you commit to working in good faith to keep the project moving forward to construction?
Yes, but we need to make sure that all the obligations are adhered to minimize costs for the taxpayers.
Yes.
Quickly, state statute sets out a threshold for what is a major capital investment project. This one is 6 times that value. This is something that should only be passed through a referendum. The city council should never be able to impose this kind of amazing burden on taxpayers without our say-so. This question was asking about good faith. The ice rink plan was not started in good faith, was not voted in good faith, is not being funded in good faith. So, if we, the people of Northfield, happen to vote yes on a referendum for an ice arena, that is the good faith I will follow.
I had some of the same questions about good faith. If I say no, am I bad? Can't I have concerns? This was a premature resolution. There are so many unknowns. When will we get the hockey money? Before we do the conduit financing? And what is conduit? Is that lease revenue? Is it conduit like we, the city council, gives to Carleton when they want to put up a new dorm? We allow them to use the city and they pay us a little fee. But what is it? No one knows. Does Dundas know they're on the hook for over $3 million? Has that really been explained to them? The sale of the old arena, $1.225 million. But the estimated value of the site, according to Beacon, the Rice County assessor, who has to keep close, is $1.3 million. The city took out a permit in May 5th for a $370,000 roof, finally. So we'll have $1.7 million in it and sell it for $1.22. That's like a $500,000 loss. Thank you. Sorry so long.
Unfortunately, at the meeting last week, it fell from 1.22 to only 1.05 million. And even that is not signed on the dotted line. My biggest issue with this is that a third of the entire budget for this project is unsecured. Between the Hockey Association, the promise from the school board, which cannot be substantiated because that is a program that's only given every year, and when the school board is already having to cut financing, they cannot afford to increase spending on the hockey program significantly. And so you can best believe they might do a year or two, and then that'll certainly have to be dwindled back. So the sale of the building, the donation of the Hockey Association, and the investment in the school board is supposed to cover 7 of the $21 million for this project. None of that is secured. We are on the line if all of that or any of that falls through. I do agree that this is an issue that needs to be brought to a referendum, and if the city wishes to move forward in good faith, what we can do is start securing some of that alternative funding to prove that that promise of the city being only on the hook for $13.5 million is something that we can honestly offer with security to the voters.
I would agree. It looks like we're kind of committed to this project because of the vote last week on the city council's part to approve it. That being said, so at this point, careful reevaluation of every aspect of that project. I want to see a complete list of contributors. I want that transparency. We need to carefully assess the plan and build only for the need and not make sure that we do not overbuild it at this point in time. Maybe there's a time when it can be added onto if needed, but only build for what you need now. I would also like to see the business plan for the income, for the usage of the building when it's not hockey season. I'd like to know those things.
Yes, thank you. I agree the yes or no question is a bit premature. I'd also, in addition to what Ruth mentioned, like to see some maintenance costs, annual loss projections. We currently lose money on our ice arena, and I believe all the majority of the ice time is sold. So we'll be selling ice time for dramatically increasing the rates. I would have preferred a private ownership adding to the tax base. I would have preferred a regional dialogue about partnerships and placement of the arena. I believe Faribault was interested in partnering. Perhaps an ice arena, Highway 35, would have brought in even more business. We talk about wanting to reduce the property taxes, but this will significantly increase property taxes, it looks like, from what I've heard from the council discussion. We've talked a little bit about equity tonight, but my last point on this is I'm curious to compare the percentage that the Northfield Hockey Association is putting into the project. I'd like to compare that to the percentage that the local skateboarders, the youth, raised through bake sales for the skateboard park. I'm really curious about that number. I'd love to see it.
Obviously, I was the only one that voted on this recently, but you know that I voted in favor of it. The proposed financial partnership with Dundas, Northfield, the school district, and the Northfield Hockey Association is the best that we've seen. The reuse of the existing facility and annual $1.5 million economic impact, which will support our local businesses at a time of year when things are slower, are additional reasons for supporting this project. Tournaments, bringing people into town. It brings people to our city to shop in our stores, to fill up with gas, to buy food, to go to our movie theater. The city of Dundas voted unanimously in favor of this. We've never seen a partnership like this before. It's the worst facility in the state. Some teams won't even come to Northfield to play in our facility because it is so bad. We've been working to address this for over 20 years. The Northfield Hockey Association is contributing $2 million plus the 7 acres. The school is increasing their levy up to $250,000. They've never defaulted on any of their leases that they've had yet. And they regularly do these levies for some of their athletics that they provide for their students. Dundas, based on the net tax capacity, that will be at 12.1%. Northfield will pick up the rest. This building, this new building, will meet our sustainable building policy, improving the overall quality and energy efficiency, decreasing the annual cost for running the facility. This is a really important moment for us as a community. It's been collaboratively brought forward. We need to continue to move it forward and allow the due diligence to be done.
I actually am in favor of a new hockey arena. That pole barn down there is ready for replacement. The thing is, I look on my sheet and I see that there is a list of private donors, which is plural. Who are the donors? How much money are they giving? Has anybody gone to the big corporations within our city, Post, McLean Trucking, asked any of them for donations, naming rights for X amount of years for a certain amount of money? Has anybody done that yet? If they have, we don't know about it. That's where I would have went first. Instead of just voting on it, I would have tried to secure private donor monies first. And then you know what you have to come up with to alleviate maybe the tax burden that we're gonna have to pay on this if something falls out of place. If somebody falls out of bed on this thing, we're gonna end up chewing up and eating more of this cost than any of these other people on here. So I think we really went backwards on this. Like I said, I'm all for one, but I'm not, the way we're doing it is completely backwards. And I know that we can do it for probably less. I've seen plans that the city was presented approximately 18 months ago for $14 million to do a nice building. It's been 18 months, I'm sure that's probably gone up a couple percent, maybe to 16 million, I don't know that for sure. But now, I've seen that we've now have approximately 2 or even 3 bids on this thing. Why do we need all these bids? And who's paying the fees on these to get all these bids and consulting and plans from all these companies? We should be, one. If you want to do it, if you want to build it, fine. We'll pay you consultant fees if you get the job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one final question, the environment question, and then I will ask for just a closing comment from each of you. So, the city has a strategic priority to implement its climate action plan with a goal to be on 100% carbon-free electricity by 2030 and be 100% carbon-free by 2040. This is an ambitious plan. The city has other environmental stewardship plans, such as a natural resource management plan. There have been some concerns raised about the lack of financial resources and staffing to make more implementation progress. And I'm just going to ask the first part of this question. What is your opinion related to the city's climate action plan and other environmental goals?
Thank you. I'll be honest, I have a very limited knowledge base on the city's climate action plan at this time, but I am very willing to learn about it as I would serve on my time on the council if I were to be elected. Thank you.
I think we've done a really amazing job as a city looking at the statistics for how the plan has progressed to the metrics that we're meeting. I think that it would be lovely to have more community education around this, but that is obviously difficult when we already have lacks of financial resources and staffing in the area. But I think we've done an amazing job, and I think making it part of our plans for businesses that are coming in is a wonderful step.
I believe in conservation and am for the goals of sustainability. Northfield's climate action plan, however, is premised on a sham. The sham comes from Carleton, and it is a great, great disappointment I have that Carleton's administration has been lying about sustainability. Recently, they dropped the college dropped their own carbon neutrality plan goal from 2050 to 2030. They did so because they discovered a loophole in definitions whereby, by offering consultation services to other colleges across the country and municipalities across the country from Oregon to Pennsylvania, they get to write off carbon as though it doesn't exist, as though the carbon output the college is making is mitigated, is magicked away by goodwill. That fairy dust plan winds up feeding into the city's plan, and it's all definitional mumbo jumbo. We can do better, but we have to be aware of the fact that when talking about natural resources, these are real, tangible things. No amount of goodwill can make up for actual pollution.
Well, it is admirable to have great expectations when it comes to a climate action plan, and some people will gladly pay the extra costs involved. I'm worried about the people that can't. Now, some of that is an educational effort, but some of it is, I'd love to put in one of those tankless hot water heaters. but I can't afford to make that pay off over the time. So, well, some people will gladly accept extra costs. Other people will need help. And where's that financing coming from? Thank you.
I'm glad that we already brought up the concern of carbon offset credits of being largely made-up numbers. Largely, when we look at trying to offset carbon or becoming carbon neutral, we can ignore the costs, not just in finances, but also in our carbon footprint for trying to implement some of these bigger programs, such as the tankless water heaters. One of the things I'm reminded of is that the best thing you can do for your environment is drive your car into the ground until you buy a new vehicle, rather than going out and buying an EV right now, because it costs materials, it takes a lot of carbon, and then you still have to dispose of the old. One of the things we can do for improving the carbon output of our city is utilizing our existing infrastructure and our existing buildings to absolute completion. When we're taking a look at the building we're sitting in, for example, renovations will produce less carbon than rebuilding and demolishing this entire building. If we can take a look at salvaging, if we can take a look at trying to stretch the dollar, as well as stretch the existing infrastructure that's already here, that is better both financially and economically and ecologically. I think that by trying to be realistic that we are not going to be achieving any carbon neutrality that is not just on paper through carbon offsets, we can still make significant strides towards reducing our overall carbon footprint, and doing so in a way that also reduces the amount of financial importance that it puts upon the city to raise those funds.
I think it's reasonable to say we're all concerned about environmental safety and conservation. That should be something we should all live by. I have a large concern about another item. As far as the environment, the city wants to spend $35 million on a fresh water treatment plant on the very southwest edge of Northfield. And several taxpayers have said to me, well, now wait a minute. What about all the millions of gallons of water that are going to have to be treated and released out into the river in this reverse osmosis process? Well, I can't give you the particulars about it. I'm not an engineer in hydraulics. But I think it posed a good question to stop and think about. And it's one of those projects that we need more definition, we need more transparency. And after I listened to the city's presentation about this new water treatment plant, I'm not at all convinced about why they're doing it in this fashion. So that's another aspect about conservation.
So I would prioritize climate action that has the biggest impact on our resiliency and climate preparedness as a community. We know what the biggest climate threats are for Northfield. They include flooding, intense storms, and drought. I would focus on flood mitigation, stormwater infrastructure, and we would do that best given our position in the watershed. So if our watershed, this is like a tree, we're at the base of the trunk, so we're getting our water from all these other communities, or going through all these other communities before they come to Northfield. So that takes regional planning. We need to be talking with the other cities and communities in the watershed and coming up with a flood mitigation plan for our complete watershed, not just Northfield. It's pretty impossible to deal with it just in Northfield. We can't. We need to deal with it on a watershed level. So I'm gonna stick to that we know what our biggest climate threats are, and we should focus our energy on dealing with the impact of those.
I would agree. We have seen how important it is to move forward to ensure that the improvements are made to help address the high level of rainfall, events, the number of events, and the significance of the amount of rain that has been falling. Again, over 4 100-year flood events. We had along Armstrong Road a culvert that blew out. We had railroad tracks blown out. Back behind Ford Street, all of those homes down there in the southern portion of the city almost flooded. We've got a river for the third time has reached 901.5 plus feet. It's endangering the downtown vibrancy and ability of our businesses to locate in our downtown corridor. It's really important that we deal with those flooding events and we invest in the necessary engineering and the modeling to ensure that we are addressing that so our community can be around for the long haul. We've got 2 federal level grants now because we've done the necessary analysis that we are seeking funding for to take care of that river corridor. We've also done the necessary analysis looking at our neighborhoods where they're experiencing the greatest amount of flooding. And we have plans in place to help those homeowners and our affordable apartment buildings, affordable housing, to ensure that those buildings don't get flooded. That is responsible governance, and yes, it takes financial resources, and I can't look the other way when stuff like that is happening. We need to continue to move forward on our climate action plan goals, and some of those are really important. You can find all of that information on the City of Northfield website in multiple locations.
The strategic plan that we have, as it listed, 100% carbon free by 2030 and being 100% carbon electricity and 100% carbon free by 2040. I think that's more than ambitious to me. I just don't think we can get there. I mean, it'd be nice if we could. I don't believe that we can get there with that. Maybe technology will change that in the next 5 to 10 years where maybe we can. But right now, in this day and age, I just don't see it happening, but I'm sure every city would like to be like that in some way, shape, or form in the coming years. As far as as the mayor said, the flood issues are catastrophic to the downtown area and stuff like that. It would be nice if we could figure out a way to mitigate some of that, but sometimes you just can't beat Mother Nature. She's gonna do what she wants. No matter what you do, it's just like trying to keep a thief out of your house. You can keep him out for a while, but he's eventually going to break in. But there's something that maybe we should look at down the road to maybe try to help that out. I just, at what cost is it going to cost as far as monies and taxes and everything like that? How are we going to do this? It's a big bill to fill. So time will tell, but we at least have to look at these things and review them and evaluate them and see if there's something that maybe we can do within means. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody for all of the time that you spent with us this evening. I know there are additional questions that are out there that we maybe didn't address tonight, but I'm sure that we'll have additional opportunities. The candidates I know will be at other events where they can certainly share more. So hopefully you will engage with that process as well. I'm going to ask for just one final closing statement. Why should the citizens of Northfield or the surrounding community here vote for you?
One of the reasons, no disrespect, but I think it's nice to have some people on the council representing the people that are actually from here. That's one of the reasons. I think those of us that come from Northfield have no better understanding of what Northfield is. What Northfield was. If you look at the current council, the only person that's on that council from Northfield is Brad Ness. I really hope that my construction background can help bring some much needed common sense back to the spending habits of the city. And I just hope that you all vote for me. I hope that if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out. I do have a website, or not a website, but a Facebook page that you can look up there too as well. So thank you for coming tonight. thank you, Chamber, for hosting the event. Thank you.
I would appreciate your vote because I am a candidate who has spent her whole life evaluating the facts from all sides, both experts and the people who live it, and making difficult decisions that I think are in the best interests of both the people who will live with these decisions now and also into the future. That's been my entire career. It's what I do well, is analyze and evaluate, build relationships and talk to people. And I think those skills will serve the city of Northfield well and Ward 2 well also. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the school for hosting, and I would like to encourage all of you to get out there for the primaries and the general election. Bring a friend with you. Go bring your whole neighborhood and go vote.
So again, my name is Edward Molnar, and I want to assure you that I believe in Northfield. I love this community, and I know we can do better. I hope that you trust my integrity and that you vote for accountability, because we can restore excellent basic services. We can restore a balanced, reasonable city budget. We can cultivate education that promotes involved citizens. We can promote business and workers, and we can do it on a smaller, more sustainable budget. I hope that you will join me in this, and I hope that you will tell me your perspective. I want to hear from you. Write to me at P.O. Box 233 or at edwardofnorthfield@gmail.com. Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber.
Yes, thank you to the Chamber and the school district and all of you that stuck it out. I think every forum I've been to, I always say, if you don't go vote, don't come to me and complain. But if you do come to me, if you vote and come to me and complain, I will listen to you. I will take what you say. More than half the time, I'm playing devil's advocate out there, speaking up for the little guy, asking critical questions. Some people don't like that I ask a lot of questions, but that's how you learn. And this is your government, this is your town, whether you've been here 5 months, 5 years, 50 years, whatever. Take advantage of your right, go vote, get yourself educated what you're doing. Thank you very much.
You've heard me repeat prioritization many times tonight, and I would like to leave you with my belief that I can bring to the table a sense of balance. That balance of, we have so many wonderful, diverse people in this town, and that is left and right leaning, that is economic diversity, that is religious and political diversity, and I really value everyone's opinion. I have a great belief that we all come with different opinions, we all come with different backgrounds, and we all have an equal voice in how everything works here. I have a fond respect for and inclusion of a wide array of opinions in how I make my decisions, and I want to hear both sides of an argument. I think that facts drive how we can be informed, but once you have the proper facts, then it's my job to listen to everyone. It's my job to make sure that I don't steamroll over anyone and I don't ignore anyone else's opinion. I love the fact that Northfield has so many different people from different backgrounds that can all come together and can bring into this myriad of opinions that we can find our best way forward as a community. My name is Adam Gebler, and as my wife always says, we're all in this together.
Again, my thanks to the high school, thanks to the Chamber for putting this together. I will tell you straight out, I want what's best for my hometown. I don't want to hear people saying, oh, I have to leave Northfield because the property taxes are choking me. We can do something about that. And as I look at the current council and what they're planning, they have excessive planning, up to about $100 million planned or are considering for projects in the next few years. That's just way beyond the comprehension of what we should be spending. And again, taxpayers are asked to support the city to pay the bills. Taxpayers are asked to support the school system we have because that's how they pay their bills. So we need to be considerate of each other. We're digging in that same taxpayer pocket. I want to be able to listen to what people tell me and be able to carry that into City Hall. We need the doors of City Hall open and welcoming. And we need to create much better communication with the way we give out information to the taxpayers and how we receive it. Thank you all again for your time this evening and listening to us. I would appreciate your vote in the primary. It's Tuesday, August 13th. Mark that on your calendar. Tell all your friends. Load up your cars. Bring your neighborhood. It's important this year. Come to the primary to vote. We need to hear your voices. And I'll say it again, as I said in the beginning. If you don't vote, no one hears you. So, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the chamber. You should vote for me because I bring city council experience and I know how to get things done at the municipal level. I bring collaborative leadership style to local government. I bring civic engagement experience. I didn't mention this in my intro, but I work at the Civic Engagement Office for Carleton College. I bring that civic engagement experience to the role of mayor. I know how to genuinely engage with the community. My super skill is listening and finding consensus. I have some literature back there, and I love all the promotions of voting. My literature has a QR code on there that will take you directly to the city's voting information about the primary. And I also have a contact me button on my website, ericaformayor.org. That's, I think, pretty easy to remember. I hope so. Anyway, thank you all for being here, and I would appreciate your vote in August.
I agree with a lot of the things that have been said here tonight. Finding common ground is not necessarily easy. Running and sharing your perspectives, that's the easy part. The governing, that's where the rubber meets the road. It's difficult. We have, again, just want to repeat out there the accomplishments that we've been able to move forward over the past 4 years. 753 homes or rental units have either been built or in the pipeline. That's significant for our community. We completed the Northwest Alternative Urban Area-wide Review next to the hospital, making it easier for existing businesses to look at that potential property to see if it's right for them. We have grants and bonding dollars for city initiatives since 2020, $13.7 million. It comes back and helps us leverage local projects here in our community, decreasing grants and bonding dollars help us to decrease the property tax levy on all of us. Transit Hub is a regional transportation for a shared workforce 20-year effort. Milltown's Trail, it's a 30-year effort, expands 6.5 miles of trail in the process of being built. Significant effort over 30 years. My strong commitment to civility, strategic planning, and the ability to work with people all across the different policy perspectives have been hallmarks of my time as mayor. It is truly my hope that bringing people together in a spirit of collaboration and championing a relentless positive attitude and optimism, an appreciation for people, and an aggressive celebration of our accomplishments will help transform our community and leave it in better condition for future generations. Thank you for being here.
First of all, thank you, all of you, for attending. I know it's probably been a little painful sitting there watching us, but we've all been in those shoes once or twice before, right? I want to thank the Chamber, of course, for hosting this. This has been a very wonderful event. Most of us on the panel here, it's our first one, so it's kind of like the rookies of doing a forum like this. I noticed a lot of people tonight came here with typed out scripts. I did not. Maybe that's a disadvantage for me, but The reason I didn't is because of three things. Because I have listened to the people, I have seen with my own eyes what's going on, and I know what I feel in my heart. And that's where, the first one is where I'm gonna concentrate on the most. I am going to listen to you. The council's not gonna get the final decision, you're gonna get the first decision, they will have to look at what you have to say. The falling on deaf ears is now gonna, it stops at my door. If you see me on the street, you've got a question, feel free to stop me. I'll take all the time you want, because that's just how I am. I love to listen to people, and I care about all of us. My leadership qualities in the military, I think, qualify me pretty well, because I know how to run a bunch of people at one time, how to get a job done, and how to be mission successful, as we always used to say in the military. When August comes, you'll see my name on there. I'm not backing out of this, no, I spent too much money already. So, but I want to thank you again. I'm really excited about hopefully becoming your next mayor, and maybe we can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of the candidates for their thoughtful responses and your care for the Northfield community. Thank you so much for being here tonight and joining us for this forum. Thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful evening.